Hello everyone, I am Sukanya Rana. I head the mains program at Civils Daily. Now I welcome you all to Streak Daily Initiative, your daily dose of UPSC preparation. Now Streak is a free initiative by Civils Daily where we are aiming to bring consistency in your preparation. So on a daily basis, under this particular initiative, we'll be giving you a schedule to follow in the morning. And after you've done studying those particular topic during the day, in the evening, questions both from the mains perspective and prelims perspective will be given to you. So right now in this video, I am going to take care of your mains answer writing. So the basic idea that you have to understand in these particular video sessions is that you will have to write those particular answers which have been given to you. And then I will cover the basic idea with respect to introduction and your body and conclusion. So what you can do is you can cross-check the answers that you've written, whether those ideas which I've talked about in the video are covered in your answers or not. So again, this is not a model answer readout kind of a thing. I'm going to explain to you how to approach those particular questions, what all elements should be present in those questions, right? So let's get started for day one. For day one, the syllabus that you had to cover included topics from polity section, which is president, vice president, your governor topics, prime minister and chief minister. So let us look at the first question that was given to you. So the first question here is that the exercise of executive clemency is not a privilege, but is based on several principles and discretion has to be exercised in public considerations. Analyze the statement in the context of judicial powers of the President of India. So on the first read, the idea that you can get here from the question is that this question is based upon the judicial power of the President of India. Another key word here is exercise of executive clemency, and you have to talk about this particular power from the angle of whether it's a privilege, right? And if it's not a privilege, then there are two keywords here, that it should be based upon some principles and it should be exercised in public considerations, right? So these were basic keywords and these themes should mandatorily be covered in your answers. So now let us look at what your introduction, what your body and what your conclusion should have included in your answers. Again, if you've not written the answers, please pause this video and write your answer first and then check the answers, because otherwise this practice will not get you any kind of benefit, right? So let's look at what your introduction should have. So your introduction first should talk about the judicial powers of the president. Give me an introduction where you can bring in the Article 72. And what you can do here is you can also draw a small diagram like a flow chart where you can give me 5 headings of commutation, reprieve, pardon, respite and remission. So basically your introduction is giving me a brief gist about the Article 72 and what all clemency powers are there with respect to the president, right? So next we're going to shift to the body. Now the body of your answer should first talk about the idea of clemency, right? Now clemency as a privilege. This means that you can talk about the aspect of how people view the power of clemency as a privilege, like in terms like president has been considered to give this power, and this power is directed based upon his own discretion. Obviously, there is this council of ministers who's going to guide them, but ultimately it's also the discretion of council of ministers, and there's no code of conduct or there's no rules and regulations that they have to follow. It's like completely subjective. So that is where the idea of privilege comes from. And after you've established this particular statement and explained to me why are we talking and considering it to privilege, then you can talk about why it is dangerous. See, the Constitution of India has a lot of stress upon the idea of maintaining power of each and every body. So there are always checks and balances in our constitution with respect to any body, right? So similarly, this particular power, cannot also be considered absolute here. And in fact, if you want, you can bring in some Supreme Court cases also, Supreme Court judgments with respect to your Sudhakar case, where where Supreme Court says that this power is not absolute and it can come under the judicial review portion, right? So when you've established why it is dangerous, when you've talked about its privileged power, then come to the another subheading where you're going to talk about what is the need of clemency power, right? Once you've talked about why considering it as a privilege can be dangerous, then you're going to talk about what is the need of clemency power. Like, it is obviously necessary because the limitations of judicial power can be overcome by this particular power which has been given to the president. All right. So give me some of those points where you talk about importance of this particular power, and then what kind of principles and public considerations should it be based upon. Now, obviously, principles, you can link it to the principles of constitution, or like your fundamental rights and DPSPs. Public consideration, also, again, it has to set an example. Like, you cannot set a wrong example and let go of a criminal who has committed a very serious crime, because it sets a wrong example in the society. So basically, these three particular headings you have to cover in your body. And finally, in your conclusion, give me some way forward with respect to your power of clemency of the president. In the sense, like how this particular power can be more systemized with some ethical code of conduct that can be laid down, and which can be followed by your Council of Ministers and your president. And also, again, you can talk about Supreme Court direction again in Sudhakar case, and how it's important to not consider this power completely absolute, and there has to be a check on this particular power, again through the powers of judicial review, right? So this is a complete structure of the idea of judicial powers and the power of clemency of the president. Now, this question is again important. Like, there have been a lot of topics in news with respect to this particular idea. Recently, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister had written to your president to release the convicts of a case with respect to assassination of a prime minister. So that is an idea that can be covered. Like, you can link this topic to current affairs also. There was also, this year, there was also a news of a 12-year Shabnam writing to the president for his mother's death penalty. So all these ideas are basically current affairs oriented, which you can also link to this particular question. And I think your introduction, body and conclusion should include these elements. Whatever points you want to rearrange under these subheadings, that is completely dependent upon you, right? So that was your first question. Now let us look at the second question of the day. Now the second question is, what are the reasons for frequent disputes between the Delhi government and the Lieutenant Governor? Would the government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Act 2021 succeed in ending that trend? Now, I think this particular question is also very much your current oriented. So, keywords that you can look into this particular question is reasons for dispute between these two authorities. That is number one keyword. This particular act is also a keyword in this question. And another question here is, will it succeed to end that trend? That is also another portion. So, three basic elements that needs to be covered in any of the three themes in your answer. Also, this is a very direct question. So I think structuring this particular question should not be a difficulty for even newcomer who's writing for the first time. Okay, so again, if you've not written, please write the answer first and then check the model direction, which I'll be giving you in the next slide. So introduction. Now again, with respect to polity, I think the best introduction with respect to your polity answers is start with the constitutional provision. So since we're talking about the governmental structure in the National Capital Territory, then we can always bring in the 69th Amendment. We can talk about Articles 239A and B, AB, and also give the examiner a brief introduction about what is the federal setup of Delhi. Right, so this will be a background kind of a introduction, which will be then the founding basement to your body. Right, so you cover the background in your introduction, then we move on to our body. Now the body structure was pretty directly asked in that particular question. So the first thing they asked about is what are the reasons between tussle between the government and the lieutenant governor. Right, so before you move on to the reasons, if you could give me a brief background, like you can create that particular flow chart where you give a brief background of instances where we've seen that there has been a lot of struggle between the government and the lieutenant governor, right? So that could be covered in short. Then you can move on to reasons. Now again, reasons, remember you have to cover them from multiple aspects. Like there have been administrative reasons. Again, use examples. You can completely use examples. Second, legislative, where lieutenant governor has a lot of time stopped passing of a lot of bills of the government. You can use those examples. The political clash that has been existing between the two authority centers. Like you can bring in the example. There was this incident with last lieutenant governor, right? So you can talk about that incident in political clashes also. So try to cover the idea of reasons from as many directions as you can, right? Next thing is we're going to talk about that act. So whether this act is going to provide you with a solution or not, that will come later on. But first what you're going to do is you're going to write a brief introduction to the act, draw a small flow chart and tell me what all it includes, right? So basically what it does is it gives more power to the lieutenant governor over the representative body, right? So show me that, write some of those points in that flow chart. And again, that is going to cover a very small portion in your answer. Then once you've given me an introduction to the act, then the portion, whether the act is a solution or not, that portion is going to come in the next part of your body. Here, you're going to talk about this particular act, how it can tackle the tussle in a positive way, right? And you're going to cover those points, and then later on, you're going to cover the points where you're going to talk about issues with respect to your act. Here, you can include your federal element and all those ideas, how it's violating the basic cooperative federalism concept of Indian Constitution, right? So these 5 points in the body are your basic idea that you need to cover in the body. And finally, then in your conclusion, you can bring in some way forward where you can talk about what should be the ideal federal structure with respect to Delhi. And you can bring in some ideas from Punchi Committee report, second ARC committee report on federalism. Also, there has been a Supreme Court ruling in Government of NCT versus Union of India case that was there in 2018. So add that element also, which can provide a comprehensive view of how to tackle the idea of federalism in your Delhi, right? So again, I think this was your complete foolproof structure of day one of your streak initiative. So we discussed 2 questions which were based upon one, the president, and second, your governors. And in fact, both of them are very important topics. Both of them are very current related topics. Thank you so much for watching the video, and stay tuned. We'll have Santosh sir to cover prelims related questions on this particular topic. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civils Daily.